What's happening, everyone? Pow pow! We are back. We are back. Took a little break. Hope you all had a great holiday, Christmas, whatever you celebrate. New Year's coming up. 2025. Can you feel it? You can feel it. I can feel it in my bones. I'm excited for those pumpermental, more pumpermental green, less dumpermental red. Prefer less of that, but who knows? That's what's going on the last few days. It was a pretty Merry Christmas, I'll say. I might have looked at the prices around the time just a little bit, or at least heard about it on the X platform. But yeah, don't care what it is right now. I'm excited. We got plenty of time going into the new year, and plenty of time to get technical and to talk different protocols and PulseChain. Talk a little bit about stable coins, maybe some DeFi, some downloadable DeFi as well. I've got Jesse back on the show for the few times. I don't know, it's probably quite a few times at this point, talking about a lot of different things going on PulseChain. So glad to have him back. Put your questions in the chat. We'll go for a little while and see what we get to. Anyways, welcome back to the show. Just Ask Jesse. How's it going, sir?
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to have you back, man. I know last time I think we did a deep dive into the PulseX lending protocol over there in Power City. And then since then, we've had the Hex one come out, also Safe Wallet. No, y'all been building a few other things around there, but yeah, maybe we'll start off with what's been going on the last few months, both in Power City and both just what have you been seeing, interesting in crypto too. And we'll kind of go through a few of the different stuff we got to get to.
All right. Well, I think one of the most interesting things that was necessary for PulseChain that we just recently delivered is a Gnosis safe front end. There's a number of things you can do to protect your crypto, because the least safe way is to simply have your seed phrase inside of a computer or a phone on a software wallet. Well, then you start getting into the hardware wallet safety, where to sign a transaction you have to use a physical device. Okay, there's also risks involved with those as well. But when you start to get into like necessities for really, really secure assets, you start to explore things such as a multi-signature safe, or a Gnosis safe as they used to be called, where it requires multiple different signatures from different wallet addresses for a transaction to be pushed to the chain so it can confirm. And all those contracts existed on PulseChain, right? They were forked over during the fork when PulseChain became a thing. What we didn't have on PulseChain is a working front end for people to run a multi-sig safe, or a Gnosis safe as they're called. So the first team to launch one was Liquid Loans, which is great, but we started to see a lot of people say, well, what happens if their front end goes down? People would like an alternative method of being able to connect to those same contracts and continue running their multi-sigs. We also had that same feeling. We, as a team, perhaps we needed a process for multi-signature transactions, and we also didn't want to rely on one single front end, right? And when you start to get into things like multi-sig, it's really difficult to use something like that without a front end. So we said, all right, we'll build one ourselves, right? So we built out a front end that talks to those contracts. And then we said, look, there's really no sense in trying to profit off of this. It's a tool that people need to stay safe. So let's just go ahead and release it to the wild, let everybody else use it as well. So recently you may have seen an announcement, safe.powercity.io, multi-sig safe. Anybody's welcome to use it. It will, we did not have to launch new contracts. It's existing Gnosis contracts that were forked over. That's perfectly acceptable. There's no oracles, there's no collateral or anything like that would require fresh deployments. All it needed was a functional front end that talk to PulseChain, right? So you're welcome to use it. It will connect into dApps, so you can run multi-sig transactions to interact with various dApps if you want. Yeah, that's pretty much
maybe
questions.
maybe give people a couple of scenarios too. Like, why would you want to do, like, what people are doing right now, and then how this would, like, take it to the next level as far as security goes. Maybe a scenario so people can kind of wrap their minds around it.
Okay, so let's give a scenario for a team, for example. So let's say a team or a company had some sort of treasury. They had a bucket of money, a bucket of crypto, and they didn't want just one single seed phrase as the risk of one single seed phrase being where everything was stored, right? Who's going to have that one single seed phrase? One guy on the team? Multiple guys on the team? As you start to spread that around to multiple people, the risk goes up, right? So maybe instead, what you do is you create what's called a safe. The safe is an address that holds the assets, and to do a transaction in there, it requires multiple signatures. So you could have buddy number one as one of the signers, buddy number two as one of the other signers, and then yourself as a signer of a transaction, and you set a threshold. So you say, okay, 2 out of 3 of these wallet addresses, 2 out of 3 of you buddies have to sign a transaction for a transaction to actually work. So I want to send assets from here to there. One of those people simply has to go into the safe, conduct a send. What'll happen is it'll basically ping those other wallet holders and say, there's a pending transaction waiting for your approval. And since you were signer one, because you initiated it, it requires one of those other 2 people to also sign. So they just simply go into their wallet, they sign the transaction, they review it, make sure it's legitimate, they sign the transaction, and then the transaction goes through, right? So there's a scenario of how a company or a team might secure some funds. It also can protect against theft, right? What if one of those people was compromised? Their own personal seed phrase for their signing wallet was compromised. Well, that doesn't compromise the funds in the safe. It requires 2 out of 3 signatures. The thief may be able to be smart enough to go in and initiate a transaction, but the other 2 guys, they live somewhere else on the planet, and they say, well, wait a minute, let's call this guy. Hey, what's up with this transaction? He says, I have no idea. My house was robbed yesterday. And they say, oh, we'll just reject this transaction, and then we'll also go in here and vote to remove your old wallet address as a signer, set up a new wallet address, and we'll add, you can add and remove signers with threshold limits as well, right? So if somebody ever was compromised, you can just delete their wallet address, add another one. Now that's a scenario for like a team, but you could do the same thing for a family. So if you and your spouse wanted to have a bucket of assets for each of your kids, you could set up different safes for each of your kids, and maybe it requires your kid to sign and then one of the parents to sign, or it would require all of the kids to sign or something. So in the event of anybody's death, let's say you died and you had some crypto, your family says, oh no, he died, he had the seed phrase. Wait a minute, he set up that multi-sig safe. We just simply have to go in and we all have to agree and sign, and then we can move those assets to a different wallet address because we all met the threshold of signing. So there's ways, there's reasons why you would want to use something like this. Because what's the alternative? You share your seed phrase. You keep it in a physical safe and hope that your family finds it upon your death. You certainly don't want to give it to an attorney or like hand it out to people before your death. So like what's the alternative, right? There have been people who are rinsed by their own grandchildren against their knowledge. You think giving out your seed phrase to people before you die is a smart idea? Probably not, right? So that's why you might want something like a safe, so you can set up a way for those people to access your funds upon your death.
Got a question here too. What if one of your buddy loses the seed phrase, then all buddies lose?
No, not at all. So the safe itself does not even have a seed phrase. The safe is simply a smart contract that holds assets, and it requires your buddy to sign from his wallet, which he has a seed phrase to. But you set it up in such a way where it also requires you, or maybe somebody else. Maybe you set it up where it requires 5 people to sign. And if five different people sign, then the transaction goes through. Now, see what happens there. He loses his seed phrase. All that he's lost is the seed phrase to a signing wallet. One single signing wallet out of 2 or 3 or 4, however many, whatever threshold you set up. Him losing that doesn't actually have the ability for the funds to get drained. The guy who stole that seed phrase can't go in there and drain any funds. It's impossible. All he'd be is a signer of a transaction, approving a transaction. So you can still go in and say, I want to end this hex stake, okay? And you initiate the transaction. And if one of those guys has a compromised seed phrase, what can the thief do? Say yes or no? Be one of the votes of many to say yes or no to that, okay? But you have to have a threshold. Let's say you have 2 out of 3, okay? Or you have 3 out of 5. You would never want to set it up where you have a requirement of 2 out of 2 signing wallets to approve a transaction, because then you could screw yourself. If somebody was compromised, but it requires, that person's signature, and maybe they don't even have their seed phrase anymore. They lost it. The only copy of it they had, they don't remember, whatever, right? And you could literally see a thief who just rejects every single transaction from there forward, and you can never move your funds because you only had 2 signing wallets, and then you also set your threshold where it required both of those signing wallets to approve the transaction, right? You just screwed yourself. So the minimum you would kind of want, in my opinion, would be you would want a minimum of 3 signing wallets with a threshold of 2 out of those 3 being required to approve a transaction, or 5 signing wallets and a minimum of 3 out of those 5 to approve a transaction. In that fashion, anybody can get compromised as long as everybody's not compromised all at the same time, and you're fine. You can all come together and essentially vote to remove a bad signing wallet, or add a new signing wallet in, or just continue approving your transactions.
Gotcha. Just looking for, I think this is around the same question. What if one holder out of 3 get deleted? How can you still unlock the safe?
Yeah, 1 holder out of 3. So that's where that threshold comes into place. So if you had 2, if you set your threshold where a transaction or a change required 2, well, you still have 2. Maybe one guy got in a car accident, right? Maybe he's dead. Okay. You still have 2 others that can sign a transaction. All right. And you can even get a little creative here. So what if you had one guy who was the ultimate trusted party, right? He was, a founder of something or something. He literally created the family. Maybe he's the dad or something, right? You could set a threshold of 2 out of 4, and you could have that guy have two of his own wallets that are signing wallets. The caveat there being, if he's compromised and both of his wallets are compromised, well, he just screwed everybody, right? So however you do this, the same rules apply to normal crypto. Keep your seed phrase secret. Don't share it with anybody. Don't go to weird links. So and by the way, you can still use this with a hardware wallet. So you could still require that each of your signers is using a hardware wallet to sign their transactions. So not only do you have that added safety where it requires a physical separate device to sign a transaction, like a ledger or a treasure or a keystone or something like that, but that's what they're using to as their signing wallet for the safe. So you just combined two of the safest ways to store crypto. You could even take it further than that. There's these things called hidden passphrases that you can do inside of hardware wallets. We don't need to get into that today, but there's just multiple layers of safety when it comes to these wallets, right? And when you're talking about a group of people or a family or like a team or something, a multi-signature safe is like the go-to method for multiple people being able to have access as long as the required amount of people approve whatever transaction they're trying to do.
Gotcha. On the protocols part 2, so with liquid loans, you got borrowing against PLS. With Power City, you got PulseX and Hex now too. Did you want to cover the options for Hex holders and stuff too? And maybe I can pull up some stats or otherwise about that. I'm curious because I know we haven't talked about that on the show yet.
Yeah, sure. So you're talking about Flex protocol, Hex DC.
Flex, yeah, yep.
Yeah. So the whole idea of like DeFi is being able to take loans against your assets, and usually in DeFi that means minting some sort of stablecoin. That's just how they work. I can get into that, but why would you not want to sell Hex? Why would you not want to sell any asset? Because you believe that it's going to go up in value over time, perhaps, right? Or you simply don't want the value to go down because you're selling it. Because every time you sell an asset, you move the price downward a little bit. You're moving those ratios. So giving an alternative to people is important. The community asked for liquidity fork for Hex so that they didn't have to sell their Hex, so that they could collateralize it, they could take a loan out against it, and they can mint something else and go do whatever they want with that other value, with those stable coins that they minted. So that's Flex protocol. Zero interest loans, because you're not borrowing from anybody else. You're essentially borrowing from yourself. You're locking up an amount of Hex and then minting your own stable coins. So you're essentially just borrowing. You're creating a loan with a smart contract, but you generate it all yourself, right? So there's no need for an interest rate every month to pay yourself back. That's just silly. So there's zero interest lending. There is a one-time borrowing fee, which is necessary to feed the other people in the system that are supporting it. There's, for example, a pool that can absorb any liquidations that might happen. Those people get rewarded with some tokens that they can stake to collect those fees. That's all necessary to make this thing run correctly. So there is a one-time borrowing fee when you take a loan, and it could be as low as right now you see it's at 0.5%. That's the lowest it'll ever get. The one-time fee, you pay that right out of the gate, and then you're done. Each and every stable coin that you mint is completely redeemable for $1 worth of hex. So again, you're minting some stable coins off of the value of your hex, and you can rest assured that those stable coins absolutely hold a peg because they're worth $1. Regardless what they're worth on a DEX, you can go to Bateus and you can see what they're worth. Typically, it's 99.9 something cents. You can go to PulseX, which has some thinner liquidity. You can go to PHUX. You can go to these different places, and you can trade these stable coins if you want. But you can always rest assured that no matter what, you can simply come back to this front end, and you can redeem them for $1 worth of hex, right? So that's what keeps that thing at those stable coins worth $1. If you could redeem something for $1 and it's selling for less than $1 on a DEX, there's an opportunity there, right? If I see it trading at 95 cents on a DEX, I'm going to buy it on that DEX. I'm going to buy it at 95 cents, and I'm going to buy it up the whole range. I'm going to buy it back to $1. And I'm going to have a whole bunch of them that I got for cheap because I know that I'm able to redeem them for $1 worth of hex. So that's literally the peg mechanism. The ability for them to be redeemed for $1 means that on a DEX, on a trading platform, they're always going to hover around $1 because people will buy them cheaper here and redeem them over here for $1. That is the definition of peg when it comes to stable coins.
So with Hex too, I mean, we got a few different things you can do with it. You know, of course, staking it. You got LP, things like that as well. When people are looking at, they have Hex. You can just hold it. Again, we hope price go up a lot, right? When they're looking at this and seeing the different options with Hex, what are they sort of thinking with using the Flex protocol and stuff? Is that, I guess, what advantage or who would that be more suited for when they're thinking the different options you can do versus staking versus LP versus other things to do with it?
So a lot of people like the simplicity of Hex. You can buy Hex, you can stake it, and over time you get more Hex. There's another way to get more Hex. You can own Hex. You can take a loan out against it, and you're welcome, if you want, to take your Hex DC that you've minted and go buy more Hex with it, right? I guess that would be some you can almost consider that instant gratification. If you wanted it now, you thought it was a good price, you thought the value was going to go up or something. Understand that if you do that and you spend your stable coins and you ever wanted to pay back your loan, well, you don't have your stable coins to do that anymore, right? But you could. Or you could take your stable coins, you park them in the stability pool, and you're being rewarded by being in that stability pool. You're being emitted these things called flex tokens. Those are stakeable for the fees. You can use those fees and go constantly buy Hex every day if you want, multiple times a day if you want, once a week, however often you want. You could take those fees and you can go buy more Hex. Or if you wanted to, your flex tokens that you're earning, if you didn't really like them, well, they're tradable. You could buy them, you could sell them if you want for that Hex that you're looking for, and you could constantly be buying more and more Hex. So what are your options with Hex? You can stake it and forget about it, and you can be when you go to unstake, you have a little more Hex than you started with. You could also participate in a protocol like this to mint stable coins, which you can put to work for you. By the way, you can take those stable coins and go put them in the PHUX protocol or in 2 PHUX protocol, and you can be earning assets over there, which you're using to buy more Hex, which is what Hex was for in the beginning, right? You stake Hex, you get more of it. Well, there's other ways to get more of it, such as this. And maybe at times using a protocol like Flex, you can get more of it using this protocol than you would be able to staking Hex directly. If you connect in, you may be able to see I don't know if you want to do that on screen or not, but you may be able to see the yields that like the stability pool and the staking pool are putting out right now.
Oh, I'm not sure if this wall is a good one to do it on. Probably not this one, but I never know if it's going to show like the full thing or not. So if I can't remember if it'll show it or not, I try not to. But is there another way to look at the yield, or is it just that?
Okay, so I'm looking at it now. Anybody can go to flex.powercity.io. The stability pool yield right now is 16.36% APR. Okay, so 16.38% APR. And remember, you can take those free coins that you're getting and put them to work elsewhere. If you're using things like the PHUX protocol and you're in the power stable pool, okay, maybe that pays like 30, 40, 50% right now. And so the yield you're making over there, you can purchase whatever you want. Purchase more Pulse, PulseX, Wrapped ETH, whatever you want with it, right? So that you got to look for ways to earn. The whole idea of crypto is to collect as many coins as you can. Like it's like a game of Pac-Man. Run around and eat up all the coins. And protocols like this allow you to earn yields, which then in turn allow you to go buy the things that you like to buy, or even to pay your bills, right? Some people use yield-bearing protocols to just simply generate a passive income so they can pay their bills.
This, liquidations, redemptions, stuff like that. How much do we need to worry about that with these protocols, and have I know there's benefits to the rest of the people staking and participating in protocol as well, but what are maybe some just quick for people just learning about this stuff, some quick like gotchas, like, hey, be careful with this particular one if you are going to participate.
So you're asking like, what are the risks of?
Yeah, somebody new to the protocol, as far as liquidations, redemptions, stuff like that.
Okay, so the risks inside of here. Okay, so there are different risks. The risk of taking a loan to begin with is that you have some outstanding debt that you don't have to pay back if you don't want to. But if the value of your collateral that's backing that debt goes down, let's say Hex took a big dump like it did the other day, you could lose. Your vault could close itself out, right? You can lose the Hex that's in your vault. But it's not as scary as it actually seems. It's called a liquidation. But you have to remember that you minted those stable coins up front. So let's say you minted $1,000 worth of stable coins a couple weeks ago. Let's say that was backed by like $2,000 worth of Hex, right? You had like 200% collateral or something. Hex did what? Almost a 50% dump just over a week ago. Okay, so at that point, if you did not manage your loan, if you did not come back and pay back some of your stable coins, or if you did not add more Hex as collateral and top it up, as Hex was dumping, there's a point where you're going to lose that Hex because it's worth too close to the amount of stable coins you minted. That point happens to be at the 10%. There's a 10% gap there, right? So once there's only $1,100 worth of Hex left, you're going to lose that. It's going to go to the stability depositors. But it wasn't necessarily bad for all those people. The stability depositors win because they just got Hex at a 10% discount. They burned some of their stable coins. They essentially purchase that Hex at a 10% discount, but you can now buy that Hex back. And because it did such a big dip, if you still had your stable coins, maybe you took your 1,000 stable coins, you just bought $1,400 for the Hex, or what used to be $1,400 for the Hex. You have more quantity than you started with. As long as you're watching your vault, as long as you're keeping an eye on it and managing it, it's not as scary as it sounds. Now, there are these things called redemptions. But even redemptions are a bit blown out of proportion. Like people say, "Oh, my vault was redeemed against." Well, that's because you are the lowest collateralized vault. It goes in order. If you're the lowest guy on the totem pole with the riskiest vault, somebody else wants to redeem some stable coins for $1 for the hex. It's going to come from your vault, and it's going to proportionally pay off your debt. So what did you actually lose? Nothing, because maybe you lost $5 for the hex, but you also had $5 worth of your debt cleared, right? So it's like, what did you lose? You still had the stable coins you minted at the front, right? And if you want to avoid that, you put a high collateral ratio. But I'll tell you this: if you have both a vault and you're participating in the stability pool, you're really not losing anything no matter what happens, almost. Because if anybody else is liquidated, you're also picking that up over in the stability pool. Sure, you could be redeemed against, but you still have those stable coins that are earning a yield in the stability pool. And if you wanted those coins back from a redemption, okay, you just take your yield and go buy some of those coins back. It's really not a big deal. As long as you put those stable coins to work for you, no matter where that is, stability pool, PHUX, go liquidity provide on PulseX, anywhere, right? Put those to work and earn some sort of yield. Usually that yield outweighs any of the risks that you might have from taking the loan in the first place.
Warren has a question here. Does Jesse know the Power City pools will be featured on Master Wizard?
I do now, and you should send some info about that to our Twitter. Just DM it over there. We'll look it over, maybe even get in a talk with you. And if it's all legitimate and really cool stuff, which I'm sure it is, maybe we'll even talk about it.
Yeah, being asked, will Power City be offering an option to use other wallets besides MetaMask in the future?
You can use Rabby Wallet with all of our dApps. So when you say the option to use, so I know it says connect to MetaMask on there. Okay, but if you go to any of our protocols from another wallet and click that button, it will connect. Right, Rabby Wallet connects in just fine with all our dApps.
Gotcha. What's hot in crypto right now, Jesse? What's on your mind? I know there's maybe a push for KYCing yourself. Nuclear Herbs is I watched some of the commentary on that too. But downloadable DeFi, is it going to win, or maybe you wanna?
I think it has to, otherwise all this stuff goes away. So I sent you a link a little while ago. The IRS, there were some laws that were slipped through that I guess nobody was paying attention to until recently. There were some laws that were slipped through. I don't think they take effect until maybe 2027. So there's time for them to be contested and overturned and whatnot. But as of now, supposedly, they all stand. And what they say is that any trading front end, even DeFi front ends, such as PulseX or Pateus or even PortalX or anywhere else that you can swap tokens, those front end providers are required to maintain a record of their customers and submit like a slew of information to the IRS. Names, trades that they've done, all sorts of stuff, which is absolutely ridiculous, and in most cases not even possible. How is for example, if you go to PulseX, Richard Hart doesn't know who is who, right? An IP address may ping his server, and transactions eventually, but he doesn't know who that person is. How, like, without creating a whole like login process and submit credentials to up into the front end and all sorts of like copy of your driver's license and stuff, it's literally going to be impossible for any DeFi front end provider to do what the IRS is demanding. Okay. But the simple solution to avoid any of that nonsense is to follow in like Richard's example and just create software where people can run these things on their own from their own computer, or deploy these things into IPFS where nobody has access to them anymore. There's no one single website required for people to interact with the front end. Like there's no central entity that owns the server or is paying a monthly fee to something like Amazon Web Services. It's up there in IPFS like permanently. Right. I think we have to go that direction. I think you'll see more and more teams say, screw this IRS bullshit. We don't want to be a front end provider that's subject to all these stupid requirements that aren't even possible. Instead, let's just release our things into IPFS or release some software people can run on their own computer. And then we essentially wash our hands of it. We're not actually providing anything at all. We don't even have a monthly bill that, like, we are not the middleman at all. People choose to interact with the software that they run, which is like, you know, I have to give credit to Richard for really pushing in that direction starting a couple years ago, before any of this was known that it was going this way with the IRS. He like foresaw that this was going to be a thing in the future, and everybody laughed at him. But it's going to become a real big deal here in the next couple years. I sent you a link in your X that pulls up all the IRS ruling information on it, and it's kind of scary. So right now, everyone's so bullish on crypto. They say, "Oh, Donald Trump's in office, or he's coming into office. Everything's so positive for crypto." But not everything is always as it seems, because while everyone's so bullish, this thing gets dropped, and it's anti-bullish.
Anti-bullish. Yeah, no, I think there's I can see three different ways this plays out. I mean, one, it definitely becomes again, one possibility, it does become a chilling effect on crypto again. Okay, well, now we don't want to host front ends. Now that's, much harder to, I mean, again, I talked about this. That's why one of the reasons I created Go Real DeFi and stuff is because downloadable DeFi is another barrier of entry for the average crypto user. It makes onboarding harder, all that stuff. And for people who are not familiar with technology and they're just, pedestrian and coming into it too. But it is this huge, step forward for, hey, no one's, decentralization, you run your own code, all that stuff too. So anyways, three different ways I could see it. Chilling effect, if it does go through, and, again, we go back into crypto dark ages and, stuff goes offshore and, US is not winning and all that stuff too. It could also, they could just push, now that crypto, if indeed the administration and everything, starts being more friendly, or at least is not trying to sabotage it, actively sabotage it, like we've seen a lot of examples of, and the different, suing left and right and all that stuff too. They could push back. The centralized players could push back and say, hey, no, we want to onboard lots of people, we want to make lots of money, we're going to push back and we're going to get this bill killed, whatever too, or just neuter it in a way that's just not effective, doesn't really apply to anything, all that stuff.
You want to think about something funny? Would you rather be in a crypto that you have the KYC and it's a little bit centralized and the government has some oversight of it, and the number go up a lot, like 1,000x, and you make a ton of money? Or do you rather be in a crypto that's really hard, nearly impossible to get into, but by golly, you get to say that it's decentralized and the number only go down? Because that is, not to be like a negative Nancy here, but that's also a possibility. Corey Costa, he flip-flops a lot on some things, but he mentioned something the other day that I just had to scratch my head at. I think he said something like, the general public doesn't give a crap about decentralization or not. All they care about is the number go up. That may be very true. If people are here to make money, So I guess a bigger question is, are you here to make money, or are you here for the spirit of what crypto is supposed to be? And do we get the luxury to have both of them in PulseChain? That's yet to be determined.
Yeah, I think, funny enough, it may get the scenario of the centralized players pushing back just to make the centralized products easier to onboard to, may actually be good for DeFi. Because if the bill gets killed because of the bigger player, big crypto pushing back on it, funny enough, it may actually help DeFi. And a lot of the VCs may have investments in different DeFi projects as well. But I hope that's, that sounds like a better outcome than most, but I don't know. I'm a little optimistic. I think I hope the crypto dark ages are over, at least for the next few years. But yeah, this bill is definitely a threat to, even shout out to Nuclear Herbs. If you run your own front end, download an IPFS link on PulseX, I guess, make sure to KYC yourself. How could you possibly comply with anything? How could you do? It doesn't even make any sense. So I think just not making sense. Hopefully things that don't make a lot of sense don't go forward now.
Yeah.
Now that we've got some people with some common sense.
I don't think they obviously didn't understand how all this stuff works when they wrote that thing, because you could have multiple front ends that all interact with the same contract, for example. Let's give an example. So how many hex front ends do we have? Like 6, 7? I don't know, 6 or 7 different hex front ends. And you know that when you go to any one of them, since they all talk to the same smart contracts, they will all display your staking history, the actions you've done, and the data about your stakes. Okay. All these front ends are doing is pulling historical data from the chain. That's all they're doing. So how at all is it possible for a front end to collect information on a user? Like, is it going to require that people have, like, you go to a front end and you have a username and login that you have to do, and you have to register to get a username and login and upload a copy of your ID and all these things first before you can even access the website? But oh, by the way, when you finally do all that nonsense, the other front end that didn't require any of that still shows all the same data from your trades, because all it's doing is pulling your historical, like, that's all they're doing. So which front end did you actually use? Prove which front end you used. Did you use this one or did you use that one? They're both talking to the same smart contract. Like, it's so ridiculous what they're asking.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that I think most people in crypto, I mean, for better or for worse, probably for a 10x, they'll give you all the information you want. I don't care about privacy, don't care about decentralization. I just want number to go up, and I want to, go off and go spend it on something or do whatever. Again, to each their own. And a lot of people who care about decentralization, but also like number go up, they know that, we like the phrase is, we need retail. We need all those people. We need all those people to come in. Hopefully some of them learn about DeFi, but a lot of them only care about number go up. That's fine. But they create the chart. They're part of the chart. They bring the money in. They that's the herd. That's the, all this stuff coming in. So yeah, it's I think hopefully it'll work itself out now that we've got, some different pieces up there running and stuff too. I know a lot. I mean, who's not going to push back? Who's for this? Who could be for this particular type of thing? Like, who, even investors to, people in crypto, who is for this? Like, nobody's gonna be for it. So if you got plenty of momentum against it, and you got some people funding that, I think they've got a chance. But yeah, another thing don't make any sense. They had an AI bill in California, the first stab at it. I don't know if you saw that, but it was like trying to regulate models based on the number of something. It was like the number of I forget what it was, but it was like some number of thing that could change in code and doesn't make any sense. Some of these things come up, they're kind of like, oh, this is, thing that doesn't make sense, but here's our first stab at it. Now we've got your attention, the industry. Now you want to put in your feedback. I think the industry's this don't make sense. This is not good for anybody. And it's not how, again, like you said, how can you enforce it? How we're going to use, please log into the DEX with your username and password and blood samples and log in with your social security number. Like, how's it even going to work? So It's pretty ridiculous. Hopefully it won't go too far. Stablecoins, Jesse. Stablecoins. What do you know about stablecoins?
Stablecoins. So, what have you heard?
Yeah, I was going to say the Tether delisting seems to be all the rage right now in Europe. It seems like. What is the deal with this? Like, why do they? Is this have anything to do with the tech? Is this purely political? Like, what's the deal on this stuff?
Is it because they're simply not complying?
I think it's something. Let's see.
So regulatory pressure,
lack of reserve clarity.
Okay, that's always been a thing, right? And apparently nobody cares. For years and years, nobody's cared. People continue to use Tether. But that, like literally since the beginning, that's always been a thing. Like, hey, what do their reserves look like? And they don't ever actually want to show them. So, like, that's nothing really new. It's just now, finally, they're being delisted for those same things that nobody cared about for years and years.
Yeah, it's weird. It's has the tech changed? I know Tether. I mean, again, a lot of people don't like Tether. I'm sure it's plenty of good reasons, pros and cons and stuff too. But it has been resilient. Funny enough, the last few years, it's like every year I'm like, oh, Tether's gonna go to zero. Tether's gonna go away every year, and every year it just keeps going. And it's the impact on the market if it did go down. I mean, what would happen if if we did have mass delistings of Tether? I mean, everything would just go into start trading in the USDC and die and other coins, wouldn't it? Like, what would be actual impact of that?
Well, stablecoins are necessary. How necessary is interesting because let's go back to the early days of Bitcoin. There were no stablecoins. It's either you bought Bitcoin or you didn't. Right? That was like the only thing to hold on to. And if you wanted to de-risk out of Bitcoin, the only thing you could do is sell it, like back for cash, right? Sell it back through an exchange and get cash in your cash account side of Coinbase or whatever, right? And then somebody somewhere said, well, wait a minute, we can create a thing that makes this a lot easier. Let's create this thing called USDC, and each USDC is going to be backed by $1, right? So people bring in $1, and then Circle can mint one USDC, and there's a redeemability thing there, right? So now USDC is worth $1. So now people can trade their crypto, their favorite thing, their Bitcoin, and they can trade into a USDC if they want to. They don't have to go all the way back out to cash. What's funny about that is it required cash in the first place. You still had to have the dollars come in and housed with Circle. So did you actually accomplish anything at all? Besides, like, what did you actually accomplish? Like, from a user standpoint, you sell Bitcoin back for cash, and it shows that you've got however much in your cash side of your Coinbase account. Or you sell your Bitcoin back for USDC, and it shows you have that many USDC in your USDC side of your Coinbase account. What's the difference to you? Like, nothing. So did we actually accomplish anything at all? I don't know yet, right? But then people got creative and they said, well, wait a minute. These cryptos are worth so much money that we can now create stable coins out of those and back them by $1 worth of crypto. So you get things like Maker or Liquidity who say, okay, you can lock up this much crypto into your own smart contract, and you can mint $1 worth of crypto, a dollar stable coin off of each $1 worth of crypto that you lock up. Right. So now you have this different type of stable coin, and it's all internal. It all stays in house. But at the end of the day, the only value in crypto to begin with is the money that came in through the exchanges. if everybody was to sell all that's ever available, is what those exchanges have, and the system completely unwinds. So it's like, even with DeFi stablecoins, it's I'm a big fan of having things in house, having the ability for people to mint their own stablecoins and have their own system without having to rely on big companies. However, it always bothers me because at the end of the day, if any of these people that you're trying to help want to get some value out of crypto, they still have to interact with these people. You still have to interact with Circle and Coinbase and whatnot at the end of the day anyway. There's always, no matter what, there's always a level of centralization, and there's always a risk associated with that. You want to know why FTX collapsed, or why crypto went down in value a lot when FTX collapsed? It's almost mathematical, by the way. So you have this money that comes into crypto. People send money from their bank account to an exchange, and then from there, the exchange gives them crypto. And a bunch of stable coins and stuff are minted off of that too, right? With Circle and whatnot. You got all this value that's housed on exchanges. That is the only value that's able to come out of crypto. So when you have somebody like SBF, who then runs off with all that value, literally the value that's able to be extracted out of crypto is subtracted by that same dollar value. And it's almost mathematical. The chart had to go down like proportionally to what he stole, because that's all that's able to get out. It you know how stable coins, you can mint $1 off of $1 that you lock up, right? Exchanges are almost the same thing. Somebody brings $1 in to an exchange, there's $1 worth of value floating around in crypto on some DeFi platform now. But the only way to get that out is if that exchange still has that dollar. So if SBF runs off with that dollar, oh no, DeFi is overvalued by $1 now because he ran off with $1. If he ran off with $1 billion, oh no, DeFi is now overvalued by $1 billion. We need to dump all these coins down because none of this is actually real or extractable anymore because he ran off with it, right? And it's almost proportional, mathematical. Every time an exchange gets either hacked, which is a little different because usually that's crypto coins being stolen, not cash. But when the cash on an exchange goes missing, or it's sold off, it's dumped at other, like let's say SBF took those coins and he sold them off at other exchanges and he extracted all that value. It takes a minute for there's ratio trades there, but it takes a minute for people to realize, wait a minute, we're overvalued because he extracted however many $1 billion. We're still overvalued in DeFi. The ratio trading didn't account for all that. Oh shit, there's $1 billion non-extractable. We need to dump our coins now and be the first at the door. It's almost like what do they call it? A bank run. There has to be a bank run to reset the price back to where it's supposed to be because that money is now missing. Right? We no matter what, we always have this risk in crypto because exchanges, there's no way around it. There is no legitimate way around this risk of exchanges.
Drones carrying gold bricks. I know that is the meme though. It is like, how do you get money to it's I guess the train of thought here is like, the super pro crypto and like never going to sell that type of people are like, okay, why would I ever want to get US dollars? Why would I ever want to get it out? I would only leverage or do what I can or hold and appreciate and all that stuff too. Interesting conversation on that one. And then there's the, hey, I want to take some profit. I want to turn it into real world things. And you got to touch your bank account. You got to touch a dollar. You got to touch assets of some sort, I guess. So that there's always going to be that connection with, the real world, the banking world. Otherwise, if you want to turn it into a dollar, at least for now, until we get some crazy new technology that makes that trustless in some way or otherwise.
You can buy a car with crypto nowadays. BitPay is one company that allows you. There's a number of places, dealerships that will accept crypto through the service called BitPay. You find the car you want. The dealership sends you a payment request. It literally is like a link to send like a little DApp essentially that allows you to send your crypto straight from your MetaMask through into BitPay. And the moment you pay, the dealership gets a notice and you just paid for that car, right? Now, I often hear people say, well, the only way around this risk with the exchanges is we have to start interacting with crypto to buy goods and services. The problem with that is, like, even then you have to have middlemen, and those middlemen simply take your coins and they sell them, right? So even a service like BitPay, you can pay with ETH, you can pay with Hex, okay? You can buy a car with Hex if you want, but BitPay themselves are dumping that and then giving cash, sending a wire essentially to the dealership. The dealership maybe signs up for BitPay. On their end, they're getting the cash. On your end, you're simply doing a send of your crypto. But in the middle, they're dumping the crypto. It's all kind of automatic, but like that's not paying for a good or a service with crypto. So how do you even get around that problem? Like who's actually going to accept crypto directly and then hold on to it and not sell it and use it as a real currency?
Michael Saylor.
Few and far between of places that will ever do that. There was a guy doing that for mattresses a while back. You would take Hex for mattresses.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that. Yeah,
that's one of the only cases I've heard about.
I was kind of half joking about Michael Saylor, but that would be it. Would you be shocked if you saw Michael Saylor be like, "Hey, we're starting a new company or a new firm or whatever that literally just takes, you can buy whatever stuff, basically just like, buy cars, buy houses, buy whatever real world assets for crypto. And it goes into, this piggy bank that, again, he's famous for buying and not selling and stuff like that. Do you think you'll see?
Okay, but where's the product? Okay, but where's the product going to come from?
Yeah, you would have to figure out, like, how would you?
Because if he's getting that from a supplier, that supplier is going to want the cash. You know what I mean? Which means it's not like Michael Saylor's just going to collect all that crypto and then pay with his own cash to buy your thing. No, at some point, somebody has to sell that crypto to give the cash to that supplier.
I just had a picture of like Michael Saylor with like a bunch of mattresses and shit. He's like, yeah, Bitcoin for mattress. I just leverage along. It's okay. I got a shit ton of mattresses. I will sell you a bed. Just send me your Bitcoin. Like, that'd be pretty funny. Before we wrap up, though, I want to hit on PulseChain and a little bit of broader crypto. Bridge number did go down, it appears, a little bit. However, I'm looking at the inflows, and I sorted them by like over 20K, for example, on Arkham. Arkham is awesome for the intelligence piece here too. 4 hours, 8 hours, we got some inflows coming to the PulseChain. Again, there's outflows as well, I'm sure, but yeah, bridge activity. I think it was backed up the other day for 8 hours or so. Number went down, looks like a little bit recently, but what do you think? All of the value of the network is sitting on the bridge. Do you think, how high does this thing go in a bull market? Like we hitting $1 billion bridge, we getting $1 billion bridge going on. What do you think? Anything interesting on the bridge?
I don't know. I literally don't know. But is it discouraging to you at all that the bridge went down for 8 hours?
Well, I think
That
about when
was with
PulseChain
our own,
launched.
that was with our own people. And it's not like a whole bunch of new people all of a sudden came into PulseChain and started using the bridge. That was our own people. And I would say the majority of those people continued to hold, not worried about the FUD. But the number of users that did get scared was from our own count. That's already people inside of PulseChain, and it broke the bridge for 8 hours. So are we concerned at all about growth and what the bridge, like what stuck transactions and what the bridge may look like in the future if we ever do grow and bring new users in? Is that concerning to people? I'm not trying to FUD here, but if that was a test, it failed, right?
Interesting. That is an interesting takeaway of, would that happen again? I mean, would do you think, first of all, maybe let's paint it with this sort of like what happened? What caused there to be so many transactions like that? And like, can we compare that to what would happen if a bunch of new people came in, or a lot of people here were trying to get out or otherwise? Like, what is it? Just a matter of we need more bridge validators? Like, what is the bottleneck there?
Just the number of transactions at once that all started to come into PulseChain. The gas was ridiculous, by the way, for a while. Like, unless you paid like millions of Pulse, you ain't getting a transaction to confirm. Like, and so is that because there was 1,000 people all trying to run a transaction, all within a 30-minute window? I have no idea. I don't know what those numbers look like or where to even look for that. What I do know is one little news event came out and it seemed like everything was broken, right? If we had a good news event, that cannot happen. If we want people to come into PulseChain and have a good experience, when the good news comes out, let's say the good news is Richard wins his case. Let's say there's 1,000 people that are like, oh, finally, I want to go use PulseChain now because he won his case. And they all get stuck for 8 hours. Oh, we just fucked ourselves, didn't we? So if anybody's listening, this is not FUD at all. If anybody's listening of any importance to PulseChain, it's got to get fixed.
No, I think it's a good point to bring. I think the lens though is important. By the way, I do want to see that inverse Interpol news come in and be like, whoa, yay, all that stuff. SEC, whatever else, big events that can happen as well. But I think that the lens that we're looking at right now is not that bull market, super green candle, everything's amazing lens. It is kind of like, we're kind of waiting. We're not quite in the bear. Things are up and down. I think the news event from PulseChain, not being able to handle, but like the bridge being backed up, all these things, they're kind of, I mean, you could paint them in a good problem to have type of thing. You could paint them as the FOMO, I was going to say before when we started the conversation about when PulseChain launched, how long did things take then? And I'm not sure that scared people away. It was more like, okay, it's fine. We got some things to figure out. Whatever happened then, maybe we scaled up, or maybe they just went through eventually. Whatever happened, I can't remember exactly, but I'm not sure. I think the lens of people chasing green candles, they're probably going to be a little bit more patient. At least it's one way that I'd like to see it too. Of course, we want everything to work and not be backed up for hours and hours and stuff too. But I think if the green candles, they tend to make people a little bit more patient. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I suppose, yeah. If you're chasing a green candle, well, if you're sitting there for hours, you start to get nervous. Like, oh shit, am I still getting a good entry? But yeah, I guess I understand where you're coming from.
I just think, yeah, if we let's say in the next 6 months, if PulseChain does a 10x, 20x, whatever your favorite number is, and then we're having this conversation, oh, the bridge, is it a frown of like, oh, the bridge, I can't believe it's backed up, or is it, wow, the bridge is so backed up right now? You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of framing. Yeah.
I don't know. I've used a lot of bridges to other chains, and I don't ever remember a time where it wasn't like relatively smooth. I guess some of those obscure forks like ETH proof of work. It was like, I think one of those bridges needed like 7,000 confirmations before your funds were available on the other side. It was like a day and a half or something stupid, like to reach 7,000 confirmations, and then you could access your stuff. Like that was ridiculous.
That sounds like every send to a centralized exchange ever. It's like you're just waiting. Oh, just to get 3 confirmations, it feels like it takes hours, like I used to in the old days when centralized exchanges were used quite a bit more. Anyways, PulseChain number go up and down. Crypto 2025. It's almost New Year, Jesse. I don't know if you're aware. It's almost New Year's. It's almost 2025. What are you looking forward to? Do you think we are going to get this massive bull run everyone hopes we get? What's your commentary there?
I mean, we all hope for that, right? I don't have any short positions at the moment. I'm just holding, doing nothing, earning some yield here and there, being bored like everyone else. We all hope for it to go up. Usually when everybody's hoping for the same thing and everybody's like thinking the same thing, like, oh, it's definitely going to go up in January. The number's certainly going to go up. And you got millions of people all saying the same thing. Usually it happens. So I mean, I'm hopeful, but I'm not getting my hopes up too much because weird stuff happens in crypto. And PulseChain is so unique that it could literally be opposite of what everything else is doing. Right? We could come in one day and then there's just massive green candles for no reason because somebody was feeling generous. We don't know. Or that could never happen. People how often do we hear, oh, Richard's going to pump the chain? Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. We have no idea. Maybe he wins the case and then he absolutely doesn't do it then, because at that point he says, fuck it. What do I need to prove now? That's definitely my money. I ain't putting a dime of it back into PulseChain, right? We could see it go literally any direction. We have no idea which direction he's going to take or what direction. We hope for him to win. I hope he wins. It looks like his SEC case is pretty solid. We'll see what happens there. But does that actually mean people are going to come FOMO into PulseChain? We have no idea. It seems like a lot of people already wrote him off as they hate him and they want nothing to do with him. So is him winning a case even going to be in their mind at all? Like, they could literally hear he won a case and say, who gives a fuck? I hate that guy. And look the other way. We have no idea. It's on us to bring new users. We got to stop thinking that Richard's going to pump the chain and that everything is revolved around him. It's on us. We like PulseChain because it's cool. You can do cool DeFi stuff. You can run your own code. It's got its own stable coins. It's got its own meme groups. It's just a cool chain to be in. It's got a great community and people you can talk to on Telegram and stuff. So it's literally on us. We got to stop thinking about Richard so much. It's on us to go bring new people in simply because it's a cool chain. Not because of him, not because of his case, not because of the sack he did or any of that, but because it's a cool place to be. It's on us.
Definitely, I hope an SEC case dismissed and all that stuff. If we're able to get an amazing outcome like that, and whatever else, the other white swans I don't know. Some of them are white swans. Some of them are just kind of like, yeah, this could actually happen. I hope the first thought of people is, it's let me go check my pulse bag. I totally forgot I sacked about that a couple years ago. That thing's still around. They look at it, number go up. Oh my gosh, yeah. Did you see the SEC thing? Oh, is that good news for sure? Oh, what about XRP? And then I hope that's the momentum. That's the snowball downhill type of thing that we just get boom blasted into space with. We got a shot though. But yeah, definitely the ethos of you do the work. That's what this community needs to have as the backbone. And so far, a lot of people building good stuff out there. A lot of cool stuff. Jesse, what do you want to take us out on?
All right. You're breaking up there. I didn't hear.
Oh, sorry. I said, what do you want to take us out on? I got a little boom. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. I don't know if I've ever shown him on the stream before, but yeah, this is the model of my avatar. There you go. Boom.
Who made that?
I don't remember. It's been so long. It's been like 2 or 3 years. I don't remember where I got it from, but yeah. Anyways, that's the guy. Yeah, so fun. Anyways, sorry. Yeah, what do you want to take us out
on? Get out and enjoy some family time or some friend time, whichever you have. It is still holiday season. It's not all about the numbers. The numbers go up and then they go down and they go up and they go down. What do you care? Are you waiting for it to go up by 10% so you can dump it? No. So turn off the computer for a few days, get out and enjoy some quality family time, and then see you next year.
We're almost there. Everyone, that's all we got for you today. Scivive and 5555. We are out.